I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Over the weekend, MAGA extremist and the chair of the Judiciary Committee in the House of Representatives, it's disgusting even saying that, Jim Jordan, who covered up sexual molestation at the University of Ohio while he worked in the wrestling department, while he was on Meet the Press, and just continued to gaslight and lie to Chuck Todd during the interview. Now, I think Chuck Todd did a decent job pressing Jim Jordan, but ultimately, when the MAGA extremists create this fictitious universe and spread all of these conspiracy theories and then are just loud and wave their hands around and start yelling and screaming in these interviews versus addressing reality, look, it is under the time constraints that these Sunday shows and that the large media networks operate, you need more time to be able to expose these idiots for all of their lies. Look, I think Chuck Todd did a decent job confronting Jim Jordan. It's obvious for people who know the facts that Jim Jordan is completely lying here, and Jim Jordan will never actually admit to the fact that everything that he's doing is just spreading bogus conspiracy theories against President Biden to cover up for all of his and the MAGA extremists in Congress and Donald Trump's criminality. But again, I think you need a bit of a sharper cross-examiner as the interviewer and more time if you're going to do these types of interviews. Nonetheless, let's give some credit where credit is due here with Chuck Todd. The first clip I want to show you, though, is Chuck Todd saying to Jim Jordan, look, the weaponization of the Justice Department, if you want to use those words, was never greater than under Donald Trump, who literally used the Justice Department to attack his enemies. He used the IRS to conduct audits of his political enemies. He targeted people with criminal investigations. We now are learning that people like John Durham, who was appointed by Bill Barr as a special counsel, covered up criminal conduct by Donald Trump when Italian officials told Durham and Barr that they had evidence of Trump's crimes. Bill Barr and Durham used that to say that they were conducting an investigation into criminal conduct relating the origins of the inquiry into Donald Trump's connections to Russia. And then what Chuck Todd also, I think, does a really good job here as well, though, is saying to Jim Jordan, you act like all of a sudden a search warrant was conducted out of Donald Trump's residence for no reason. It's been about a year and a half of Donald Trump lying and obstructing before ultimately the Department of Justice executed a search warrant. Here, let's play this interplay between Chuck Todd and Jim Jordan. Play the clip.
Justice Department, Donald Trump did, to go easy on Michael Flynn and Roger Stone. The Justice Department was pressured by Mark Meadows to investigate this election fraud. He even tried to change the leadership at the Justice Department. My point is, if you are concerned about the weaponization of the Justice Department in the Biden years, why not investigate the Trump years?
We're going to look at threats to the First Amendment. We're going to look at what Elon Musk through the Twitter files has displayed is unbelievable. The idea that the FBI was paying Twitter $3.4 million to help them suppress information.
That's not how it works.
Keep information from the American
Twitter to comply with subpoenas. That's the federal law.
Do you think it was okay?
That's a law Congress passed.
Do you think it's okay for the FBI to be meeting every week and suppressing information about a conservative and suppressing the Hunter Biden story, which we know is true? Do you think that's all right? I think most Americans say, no, that's probably information we...
I understand, but this is a private organization that made this decision.
With pressure from the government. That's the point. I can understand a private organization can do it. I don't think it's right, but there shouldn't be pressure from the government. When is the FBI just going to stay out of election process? Just let we the people decide. Let the American people decide. In 2016, they spied on Trump's campaign. 2018, it was the Mueller investigation. 2020, they helped suppress the Hunter Biden story. 2022, they raided the home of a former president 91 days before an election. Maybe just let the American people decide. Maybe just stay out.
But you keep talking about this raid on Donald Trump. The amount of time, there was 9 months between the initial action that the archives made for a request of documents before they even turned it over to the Justice Department. The subpoena was issued 60 days before they actually executed the subpoena. And more importantly, the only time the public found out about it is because Donald Trump told the public about it. This was not some sort of, you paint it as a picture of the FBI did this, and this within hours of each other, when it was actually a year and a half of Donald Trump not complying with any of the requests from National Archives. A year and a half. This is not some sort of proof that somehow that they've weaponized and playing politics over here.
They raided They raided Trump's home. They haven't raided Biden's home.
Because Biden didn't defy a subpoena, Congressman. He defied a subpoena. By the way, he had 60 days to comply with the subpoena before they actually executed
President
the search
Trump
warrant.
had documents locked in.
Okay, the next clip I want to show you, Chuck Todd goes to Jim Jordan and says, look, are you worried about the connections between China and Trump? I mean, what he doesn't say in the interview, but what we know, of course, is that Donald Trump paid more taxes to China than he did in the United States, that Donald Trump, one of the secrets that he was hiding and not releasing his tax returns was that Donald Trump had a secret bank account in China. We know that Donald Trump directly engaged in business with China leading up to his run for office to the tune of $15 million in business transactions with people in China very close with very close ties to the government. Here, I want to play this interplay, but the one thing I want to flag for you also, before, which I think Chuck Todd did not do a good job going in, and again, this is the problem with the format of the way the media conducts these interviews and letting someone like Jim Jordan roll up his sleeves and do all the theatrics that he does versus confronting the issue, because you've got to pull back the layers to get at the truth, where there's just so many lies after lies that these MAGA Republicans say. There's a reason that it's called the big lie, because it's big lie after big lie. Like even when Jim Jordan says, and the Mueller report found no collusion, no conspiracy, no nothing, that's false. The Mueller report did not find that. That's what Bill Barr claimed that the Mueller report found. But when you read the Mueller report found significant ties between Donald Trump and Russia. That's why Donald Trump's head of his campaign, Paul Manafort, was found guilty twice based on his connections to Russia. That's why Mike Flynn, who Donald Trump appointed to become our national security advisor, literally the top position to oversee all of our national security, pled guilty to covering up communications with Russia's ambassador. I mean, you can't get more close connections than that. There were like 30 plus indictments by Mueller based on the relationships between Donald Trump's inner circle and Russia, and many, many more convictions. So there was actually a lot of convictions, a lot of connections, a lot of people in Russia who have been indicted, who are currently still in Russia in hiding because of their attempts to influence and their actual conduct in influencing the 2016 election. So to say Mueller found nothing and just let that hang out there is complete and utter BS. And again, you had the weaponization there of the Department of Justice with Bill Barr and Durham and all of these Trump lackeys who just violated the law every single day. Here, let's just play this exchange between Chuck Todd and Jim Jordan here. Play the clip.
They raided Trump's home. They haven't raided Biden's home.
Because Biden didn't defy a subpoena, Congressman. He defied a subpoena. By the way, he had 60 days to comply with the subpoena before they actually executed
President
the search
Trump
warrant.
had documents locked in a room with Secret Service protecting them. President Biden had documents in his garage and in a think tank that was funded by the Chinese. I think there's a difference. President Trump was the only guy who was actually president.
You talk about that. You're worried about the Chinese and Hunter Biden.
No, I'm just saying.
Are you worried about the Chinese and Donald Trump?
They took pictures of.
Are you at all worried about that?
No, I'm not. But they took pictures of the documents at Trump's house. They took no pictures of documents. In fact, it's not just me who would like to know what went on here. Senator Warner said it last week. He would like to get a briefing. He wants to see the documents. No, and guess what? The FBI is saying no, but they took pictures of the folders in Trump's home.
The issue is not whether what Joe Biden did.
No, the issue is equal treatment under the law. That's the issue.
No, the issue is
treatment under the law.
You do not seem to ever see the same conspiratorial problems when it's a Republican.
Those were all investigated for 4 years, and they continue to do it.
Their Durham investigation investigated everything you're trying to investigate and came up with nothing. Do you not trust Bill Barr and Mr. Durham?
The Mueller investigation, we had 2.5 years of this, and they were going to find Russian collusion, and guess what? They can't. Even though Adam Schiff told us
the Durham investigation did not come up with any. They investigated all these concerns that you had about the FBI, about made-up snitches, all these things. They didn't find anything. Why is it that you want to reinvestigate it?
They found that Kevin Kleinsmith altered documents, and he pled guilty to it. That's finding. When you got someone at the FBI altering documents in front of the FISA court, that's not finding anything. That's pretty important, Chuck. That's what we're looking.
Find what you are claiming that is out there.
Well,
why couldn't Durham find it?
The Durham investigation is not done. The Mueller investigation is done. And what did he conclude? No collusion, no conspiracy, no coordination. And we had 19 lawyers, 30 agents, $40 million spent on that, and it consumed the country for 2.5 years, and there was nothing there.
Let me ask you about subpoena compliance.
And again, you see at the beginning of the clip, Jim Jordan's been asked, are you worried about Trump's connections to China? No. Well, I mean, the good framing of these questions that I think Chuck Todd did well, because you're never going to get Jim Jordan to actually, admit to real facts. But, asking Jim Jordan, okay, well, if you're investigating Hunter Biden, wouldn't you be far more concerned with Jared Kushner, who was actually somebody who was within the administration, had a top position, was conducting diplomacy as basically the head diplomat of the United States of America, who couldn't get a security clearance because he was compromised, who the leader of Saudi Arabia, MBS, said that he had Jared Kushner in his pocket, who MBS bragged that Jared Kushner gave him the enemies list so that MBS could kill all of his political enemies in Saudi Arabia, that Jared Kushner, who could not get a security clearance, was giving MBS all of the top secret classified information so that MBS could kill political enemies and potentially people who were American assets in Saudi Arabia. Shouldn't we question why Jared Kushner and Ivanka got $2 billion by the Saudi Arabian government, by their fund after Jared Kushner, after the Trump administration was over? I mean, literally a quid pro quo bribe. Shouldn't we be questioning why Jared Kushner's family got all this money infused to bail them out before they were about to go bankrupt based on the debt that they had on a horrible real estate transaction that they went in, that they got from the Qatari fund after they went back and they convinced the Saudis to remove the blockade from Qatar? Don't you think that we should address actually issues of people who were in the government who engaged in such blatant corruption before our very eyes? Or you just want to focus on the fact that Hunter Biden has naked pictures on his laptop so you can say Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden, and not actually focus on the real criminality? Look, these MAGA Republicans are the biggest phonies that there are. They're all traitors. They're all fascists, and it's time that we just call them who they are. They may want to throw up their hands. They may want to just completely lie, but it's so important that you watching this, you spread the message of truth. You spread these videos, you share these videos, and we call out these fascists, because if the large media networks aren't going to do the job they're supposed to do, we need you to do that job. We need to do it together. So share this video. Make sure you tell your friends, everybody, to subscribe to the MeidasTouch Network. It is so critical right now that we make sure that we don't let these fascists, these Jim Jordans and these Gates and these Trumps and these Kevin McCarthy, I could go on, and these Marjorie Taylor Greens, these despicable traitors, keep their power in the House of Representatives. It's time that the pro-democracy community, the once exhausted majority, stand up. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit the subscribe button. It is free to subscribe to the MeidasTouch Network, so please hit subscribe. And in addition to subscribing to the MeidasTouch Network, check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. You will love the exclusive content we have at our Patreon site, but most importantly, it helps grow this independent media platform, so check it out. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network.
Our blue wall stopped the red wave and election deniers got denied election. That's why we're celebrating with the new Democracy Prevails team. We've got lots of work to do, but we should all be proud that when democracy was tested, democracy prevailed. You've earned this. Don't wait. Get yours right now at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.